Kosuanity era one radio empenyini say yensoma na motenten yesoma banyasafo era one radio yede nsem anomuaye ebre yensoma na motenten era one radio yede nsem
Good evening, Era One Radio listeners and viewers all over the country, all over the world. I want to invite you and welcome you to our broadcast for tonight's show. You are on the Divine Connection Show, and I'm your host, Charles Boison. Tonight is going to be another interesting program. And being International Women's Day, I want to sound out a congratulatory message to all our women for the hard work, for all that they do. So we want to appreciate all our women, not just today, but throughout the year for the good things they do. Well, in case you just joined us, this is the Divine Connection Show on Era One Radio. You can catch us live by calling into 240-280-2633, or you can text us on 510-531-0946. This is Era One. Let me just remind you one more time, and then we'll take off.
Kosuanity Era One Radio empenyini say yensoma na motenten yesoma banyasafo era one radio yede nsem anomuaye ebre.
Well, we are living in very difficult times. Of course, if you know what is going on around the world, the peace of our world has been destabilized. Russia is pounding on Ukraine and has called on the whole world to be an ally and help out what is going on. Tonight, we're going to discuss this very important topic, which we have titled The Effects of a Seeming Inadequate Preparation. What do we mean by that? Well, I'm not going to give you any hint now, and the panel will discuss that in a jiffy. So I want to, of course, you know, Pastor Con has been a seasoned co-host, guest for a while, and, you know, we want to introduce a third person. And so, by way of introduction, you know Pastor Con already. He is, you know, a pastor. He's an IT guru, and he is a doctor-in-law, Jewish doctor. So wherever you pass, you can catch him, and he's all over the place. So I call him Jack of all trades and master of all. But then we are adding Mr. Max. And the good thing I like about Mr. Max is he hails in Ghana. By now, I think it's about, 11 p.m., and he stayed past his bedtime to be with us tonight. So, Uncle Max, thank you very much for being with us tonight. But by way of letting our listeners or our visitors, you know, whoever you are, guests know who you are, I will just ask you kindly to just give us a few words about yourself, introduce yourself a little bit to our listeners, and let's know the grand, you know, person that you are. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Boison. It's an honor to be on this show. For the benefit of the listeners, I'm on my Facebook page. You will see a description of me as a nomad, just another nomad looking for the well on the horizon. So I'm a seeker after truth. I have been seeking the wisdom and understanding of God and why I am on this planet since I was very small. And it's been a very interesting and enlightening and the fruitful journey on which I still am, as I believe all of us, our lives still are. So I'm glad to be on this show and with, you know, Pastor Akrong and Dr. Boison, and I hope that we will be able to unveil and unravel some of the mysteries in this holy book we call the Bible. Thank you.
Amen. You're welcome, sir. You're welcome. Thank you very much, Mr. Max. And once again, Pastor Kron, thank you for being with us all this time. All right. I always like to do something I call the warm-up. We warm up our program before we get into the meat, the zenith of our program. And before I do that, I want to give a shout out to my niece, Comfort Boison, all the way in UK. I think their time is also similar to that of Ghana. She's also awake to, you know, give us some support. And I also want to congratulate her for adding the population of this world by 1. She just had a baby, bouncy baby boy, I think just, last week. So Comfort, congratulations, and thank you for being with us. All right, so Pastor Con and Mr. Max, this is the issue I have. You know what is going on in contemporary times? It's been very difficult for all of us waking up every morning to see the news on what is going on between Russia and Ukraine. And as some of you already know from Ghana, they say there is nothing that doesn't pertain to somebody. If you see somebody fighting, so as for me, it doesn't bother them. Let them fight until they are tired and they kill each other. That's not the approach to go. So we are all concerned and bothered about what is going on. Pastor, let me ask you first. Is there any biblical connotation what is going on in this region? Is there anything you can point to? Well, sometimes people say Daniel had a lot of revelations concerning what's supposed to come. I don't know whether Daniel saw this coming. I don't know. But you being a historian, can you, give us an insight into what is going on?
Well, it's just human beings doing what human beings do.
Okay.
We've been fighting each other from day one. Cain killed Abel. It's been like that. So let me say, wherever and whenever there are competing interests and there is no middle ground reached to accommodate each other, this is what happens. Let's hope it is resolved in time so that lots of distraction will not take place and the world can move on. At the moment, it's causing a lot of headache here in the US. Gas prices are shooting up. And when gas prices shoot up, other things also shoot up. Yeah, so we are affected, and you appropriately and rightly made a call that what happens to one person inevitably may cause some tension and instabilities in other places. So we are feeling the effect of that action in Russia and Ukraine. And let's hope it resolves in time. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Max, I'll pull your mind on it. When we were young kids growing up in Ghana, we were told that our Lord Jesus Christ was coming very soon. That word soon they use, I don't know whether it was subjective or it was an objective word, but that soon has been going on. We still haven't reached there. Do you foresee this Russia-Ukraine war being the beginning of the coming of the Lord Jesus Christ? Does it have any, semblance?
Well, Dr. Boison, I believe the Lord Jesus Christ has been coming since he left.
Okay.
So this is not new, but we have, I think, to understand that coming in two ways, or at two levels. Yeah, each of us as individuals are called to serve the Lord, each of us. And so whether Jesus appears in our lives or not is dependent on how we respond to that call. Yeah, for many are called, but few are chosen. And that choice is a self-choice. We choose to be chosen, if you understand what I'm saying. So if you make the response and you reach out to embrace the name, the name and the call of Jesus, then he will appear in your life and he will be with you. So that's one level, that's the individual level. On the planetary level or the global level, that is a little bit more complicated because there is a fundamental law of creation that where you have a thesis, there also you'll find the antithesis. We have it in one of our Akan laws. Where there's an ailment, there also you will find the cure. So when Jesus came and said, love thy neighbor as thyself, and he presented a thesis for humanity to follow, there were other elements that also brought in the antithesis. Fear thy neighbor, for thy neighbor means you ill. That was the antithesis to Christ's message. And that antithesis came from what we loosely refer to as the Antichrist, who is also among us. But the prophecies and so on forecast that the Antichrist would gain ascendancy in the latter days. And this is exactly what we are seeing today, where there's what I call the ideology of fear. Okay, fear being the antithesis to love. Yeah, love brings people together. Fear pushes people apart. The thing you fear, you're not going to go near. You will run away from it.
That's true.
So we have a situation where much of what happens in the world today is driven by fear. It is driven by the Antichrist. So especially in our political sphere, politicians will get up on a podium and they will indulge in hate speech where they are othering certain communities and putting the fear of these communities into their constituencies. And it has become pervasive. Everywhere you go, there is fear being put into the hearts of humanity. The most recent global fear was this so-called pandemic, which was on the news every day, talking about how people were dying and people were alone and they were having difficulty breathing and so on. A lot of fear went into people. And on the back of that fear, they introduced social distancing and so on. All of these things are inimical to love. You can't love somebody when you can't even get close to them and you can't give them a hug. You can't express the love. And it leads to isolation and so on. And I would say that what's happening in Russia is just another elevation of that fear-mongering that has become so pervasive in the world in recent years. And this time, Putin is the big boogeyman who is coming out to get all of us unless we stop him, and we have to go to war and neutralize him and so on and so forth. And yet this man was provoked. He was sitting here somewhere, we must remember that when the Berlin Wall came down and East and West Germany were united, one of the conditions was that NATO would not expand 1 inch to the east. And that was respected for a while. And then gradually NATO started expanding towards Russia's borders. Until today, they've got Latvia and they've got Estonia, which are part of NATO, right on Russia's borders.
Mr. Max, you are giving us too much You are giving us too much information. I think we have to actually take a topic on this and discuss, because we were just going to go for a warm-up and you've given us too much information. I think it's going to be a broad, big topic that we have to tackle. So that is a very good, illustration.
I'm sorry.
No. It's okay.
Wrap up
it's like, you have really alerted us to a lot of information that will give us another topical issue. But Pastor Frank, Akram, what do you think? I think what we'll have to do a whole discussion on that.
Dr. Mas is the man.
All right, I think I'm in trouble today because the brains that I have here tonight is going to be crazy. So, listeners, I want to tell you, call somebody. Call in 240-280-2633, and let's just have this lively discussion. I know Brother Max is great, but tonight what is coming out, coupled with Pastor Akron, is going to be fireworks. All right, we are already 15 minutes into our time, and wow, I am already living something. So, Brother Max, this is awesome. You really scratched my forehead, so that would be a very great topic. So, if I don't, you give us too much information, and we might deviate a little bit. So, I want to bring us back on our focus on our topic tonight. So, we're going to look at the effects of, inadequate preparation, or what seems to be inadequate preparation. We're talking about the story of Jesus Christ. And of course, on Divine Connection, we're not just doing spiritual things. We're not doing a Bible study here. And we're not just doing only physical. We are combining the two, where divinity meets, humanity. That is what we're doing. And we have very, great brains tonight to help us do the discussion. We are going to look at this chapter 2 of the book of John. And Pastor Con, do I have your permission to read the 11 verses quickly and then we'll zoom into it? Is that okay?
Yeah, actually 1 to 10. Yeah.
1 to 10. Okay, all right. I'll read 1 to 10 and we'll get into our discussion. All right. So it says, of course, our textbook is the King James Version. And the third day, there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. And both Jesus was called and his disciples to the marriage. Okay, I'm getting some echoes. Lord help us. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus said unto him, they have no wine. Jesus said unto her, Woman, what have I to do with thee? My hour is not yet come. Today is International Women's Day. His mother said unto the servants, Whatsoever he said unto you, do it. 6. And there were set the 6 water pots of stone, after the manner of the purifying of the Jews, containing 2 or 3 firkins apiece. Jesus said unto them, Fill the water pots with water. And they filled them up to the brim. And he said unto them, Draw out now, and bear unto the governor of the feast. And they bare it. 9. When the ruler of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and knew not whence it was, but the servants which drew the water knew, the governor of the feast called the bridegroom, and said unto him, Every man at the beginning does set forth good wine, and when men have well drunk, then that which is worse, but thou hast kept the good wine until now. So he said, they saved the best for last. All right. So that's the story on Jesus, and that Bible tells us that was the first miracle that Jesus did according to the book of John. All right, Pastor Con, you know very well, and I'm sure by now, Brother Max, you know that we have a syllabus that we go by on this program. Normally, we go into the subject, we do some literature, we do some English, and we do, context of the story. So we combine we make sure we absorb all our listeners. All right, Pastor Con, if somebody just read the scripture, what would be the subject that is at stake?
What jumps right to the top will be shortage of wine. So that's what I would say is the subject. Well, let's hear what Dr. Max has to say.
Uncle Max, do you have any?
Yes, I would have to agree with.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm. You agree with
that?
There
was a shortage of wine. Why that happened, we don't know. Whether it was because of lack of proper estimation, or whether there was something untoward that happened. That, for example, there are many more guests than were invited.
Okay.
As often happens in weddings in Ghana. We don't know. But yes, there was a shortage, and that created the opportunity for something to happen.
I'm glad both of you. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. I thought you were done. Yeah, go ahead.
Since you're talking about English and storytelling, it is in the nature of the story that you have to have a crisis. Otherwise, you don't really have the story.
So you both agree it's the shortage of wine. Why is it not Jesus' first miracle?
Well, the miracle must happen in context.
Okay.
There must be a reason for the miracle to happen. So
all right.
This is part of the miracle. The context for the miracle was the shortage.
So with this wedding feast, wine running out and Jesus coming to their rescue, what would be the stakeholders at stake? I mean, stakeholders, of course, that's tautology. Who are the stakeholders?
Well, right, you have, the Bible says the mother of Mary was there. What was at stake? It appears she was a family member, because the Bible also says in verse 2 that Jesus was called and his disciples. So if Jesus is mother, Jesus is disciple, and then the mother herself was there, then we could rightly say they had something to do with a couple one way or the other. And so you would have the couple themselves, you have Jesus's mother, you have Jesus. Let Dr. Boison also look at Dr. Max go for what he also sees in the text, other stakeholders.
Okay, so certainly we had those.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you have any more apart from what Reverend spoke about?
Yes, there were those three parties as key, actually not three, four parties: Jesus, disciples, mother, bride and groom. But there are two other groups of stakeholders. One was the group of servants, who did the bidding of Jesus at the behest of the mother. And the second was the governor of the feast, or the chief steward of the feast, whose role would have been that of, as it were, umpire and raconteur. You know, and I think
then there would also be the invited guests.
Invited guests.
They drank.
They came with their stomach.
or maybe it was the uninvited guests who did all the extra drinking.
We'll be coming at the great crashes. They also, they had an influence. But today being International Women's Day, let me just throw a little bit shout out to the women. John mentioned the fact that Mary spoke to her son to do something to rescue the party. Would you say Mary had an influence on her son at that time that led to Jesus performing that miracle? Or it was bound to be done? Pastor Kwan, you first.
Well, if Jesus complained to the mother that he said, what do I have to do with you, mother? A woman. He didn't even call her mother, right? Yes, the mother tried to goad him into action. You understand? So yes, the mother had some influence. And she had influence because she knew what the son could do. And from all indications, if we are to restrict ourselves to just the Gospel of John, this was Jesus's first outing in terms of as the Jesus we will later get to know, the miracle performer and things like that. So the public, to all intents and purposes, wouldn't be used to the kind of ability Jesus had. Until the mother introduced him with the opportunity on this occasion. So yes.
All right, awesome. That is very good response. But Mr. Max, let me circle back to you. So Mary had some, a little bit of influence or effect on. Would you say if Mary wasn't there, this miracle would have still somehow come about?
I doubt it. The thing about mothers very often is that they have insights into their children's ability, more so than the children themselves. And this is one way they are able to guide the child into growing to fulfill their potential. Now, of course, here we are dealing with a grown man. So Jesus was not a child anymore. But nonetheless, it may well be that his mother had certain insight into timing that he may not have been fully ready to accept, if you like. So that her role would have been that of catalyzing the situation, acting as a catalyst for the miracle to occur. So it's interesting that in some other versions of the Bible, that verse where Jesus says, woman, what have I to do with thee? In some other versions, it's translated slightly differently. in the web version, for example, it says, "Woman, what does that have to do with you and me? My hour has not yet come." You understand? So in that situation, he's including her as part of his ministry. She's not there just as his mother. She's there as part of his ministry. And she has a role to play in the unfolding of the events that are to come in his life.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
But
Viewers,
Boison, before
yes.
we stride along too far, do we want to really look at the causes? Was there really a shortage?
We'll come to that. We'll come to that. Today being the Women's Day, I'm trying to be a little bit biased. I want to make sure I'm applauding my women a little bit. So let me take this quick message from the women. And then when we come back, Pastor Kron, we'll go to that shortage issue. We'll come to that. So let me just give me 1 second. And
They are 4 women. They are beautiful with brains. They are eloquent, decent, wise, and experienced. You have heard many, the funny. Now, it's time to hear the experience and the brainy. Meet Selena, Dorcas, Gifty, and Annette as they present the real in common getting. In Komobia Yesesi chain, the dead, as in Takrenu assume the dead, the real in common getting. Showing live this and every Sunday, 7 p.m. on Era One Radio on Facebook and on YouTube, Era One Radio and our Taibo channel. Kaise, so we see the real in common getting ya. What brabon tete, winyan konkonsa, we the real in common getting.
that is our woman for you. Make a date with them every Sunday, 7 p.m., and you will enjoy the thread that they bring us. So thanks to Dr. Setutu for making this possible. I love this app. All right, Pastor Kron, before we went for the break, we're talking about the causes and the inadequacy. That is the meat of our discussion tonight. Whether the groom and the bride or the party planners, event planner, were actually short-sighted or they didn't plan adequately. I was thinking maybe there were too many gate crashers to the party. Those who were not invited just, crashed the party and there was a shortage, or there was inadequate preparation from what we realized. Of course, when you read this book, you might not get all the inference like we are discussing tonight. So, Pastor Kron, I want you to give us a throwback on what happened. What are the causes? What do you want to attribute?
I will actually ask Pastor Dr. Max to take the first stab. I have my mind, yeah, it's possible it was a shortage, but I want his take, and then we'll take it from there.
All right, Mr. Max. Well, I'm the moderator, and I have all the right to stop him or continue, but I'll just allow him to do so. Mr. Max, go ahead. He's trying to take my job. He's trying to take my job and tell me who asked the question, but I'll just let it slide.
I like his take.
Okay, all right.
He's raised the bar, so let me allow him to raise the bar higher and higher, so we can actually stand beneath it.
All right, Mr. Max,
I may have to start dodging under this barrel. It's from my reading of the passage. It's a bit hard to say how the shortage may have occurred. Certainly, it may be easier to say why the shortage occurred to allow Jesus to perform his first miracle, which was symbolic in many ways, because it was to do with water and wine. And the theme of living water appears in his life in several places. And right at the end of his life also, the theme of wine as blood also appears. So it's like a in music composition, typically you have what's known as a prelude, where you might establish certain themes to the composition. And then right at the end, you have a coda which restates some of the themes, the same themes to the composition. And in between, you have the development and exposition and all the creativity that goes into exploring how those themes might work together. So I think it's very symbolic that Jesus made this particular miracle as his first public miracle. And it would need to have been arranged somehow. But let's remember we are dealing with a God who can make things appear and disappear at will. It's his universe, it's his creation. So if he wants to create a shortage of water so there's a drought over the land, that's chicken feed to him. And if you can create a drought so that the land is parched and people have to pray to him for salvation, for forgiveness, and for the rains and so on. I mean, causing a bit of wine to disappear at a wedding really would not have been a very difficult thing for him to do. So perhaps that is what happened. You know, perhaps there was preparedness, but what people didn't prepare for was God's intervention. Because that is not always easy for humanity to anticipate.
Brother Max, you brought something that you actually pull my legs. I mean, I was listening rapidly and okay, I'm gathering this. Okay, it could be possible being Jesus' first miracle. God must have orchestrated a shortage for him to do the miracle, or peradventure it happened, and whilst he was there, he solved the situation. Which is which?
Dr. Boison, let me. Yes, I also like the angle Dr. Mas is coming from. Honestly, I haven't looked at it from that angle. For me, I mean, I also want to look at the human factor.
Okay.
You understand? Yes, God could, and I like the way Dr. Mas put it. God could orchestrate anything. But I don't want to give the human element a bypass. I mean, Dr. Mas first hinted at the fact that there could have been miscalculation on the part of the couple.
Okay.
And honestly, almost all the commentaries and whatever has been written, it's like that is the common
denominator.
That, yes, there was a shortage, but for the causes, it appears from reading the text, some people drank themselves beyond what you understand. But as you and I know that this forum, this show is not only about grounding us spiritually, making the case for the spiritual power of the Bible, but we also want to strive at the intellectual side.
That's true.
You understand? How does the Bible build our minds? How does it equip us to use it for powerful things in the world? So I would like to look at it this way. Thus, or has the author given us clues and maybe cues in the text for us to maybe take a stab, a suggestion as to what may have led to the causes? And I think, Dr. Boison, I suspect so. But the author has given us clues as far as I'm concerned. in verse 6. It says, and there were set there 6 water pots of stone, after the manner of the purifying of the Jews, containing 2 or 3 firkins apiece. That's a power verse.
That's deep, yeah.
Yes, and as far as I'm concerned, it gives us clues. And so, Dr. Boison, if I have your permission, can I take the next 5 minutes to really break it down?
Yeah, for $10, go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir, I will charge 1,000.
I am charging you. Okay.
But you see, I think from my reading in the commentaries, it's like all of us got stuck on the fact that the water pots served as the containers that birthed the miracle, or Jesus used to birth the miracle. But I also see more in those containers, and for that fact, the clue there is the author has taken the trouble to tell us that the water in those 6 pots, that water was there to wash the feet, which is the purifying of the Jews. So our assumption would be that this was a Jewish wedding, right?
Yes, sir.
And so everybody who came there will follow the Jewish tradition of the day. So their feet to be washed. And another interesting clue there is the name Cana. When Cana of Galilee, the word Cana actually means reed, which will give us ideas about the location of the place, that it will be in a marshy area, because reeds grow in marshy areas. So you know that there will be a lot of dirt. And this was a village. So people coming there, one way or the other, might carry some dirt with them. But this was also this was the tradition, the practice of the Jews. Whether if this had happened in the palace, it still would have been done. The feet of the guest would have been washed. So let's use that little fact to bring out some ideas. First, John makes us to understand that the number of the water pots were what? 6.
Okay.
And he also gives us additional material that each of them contain between 2 and 3 firkins. That's a powerful word too. The word firkin is a British unit of measurement in terms of volume. And the dictionary says a firkin is a quarter of a barrel. And a barrel, if we are using the British or the American term, is made up of what we call the imperial gallon, 40 imperial gallons. When you convert it to the American system, each gallon will be 10.8, roughly 11 gallons for a firkin. So if a firkin is a quarter of a barrel, and a barrel will be roughly 44 gallons. Actually, in America, it will be 52 gallons, because the imperial gallon, as converted to the American system, is roughly 13 gallons, 41 liters. You understand? So all of a sudden, we are getting some interesting information here that if the author says the water that was available to wash the feet of the guests, right? One will say that before the occasion, before people started coming, these water pots were full. So everybody who was there, the feet of those people had been washed. as part of the purifying manner of the Jews, right?
Ceremony, yeah.
So, if each barrel water pot will contain roughly, let's say 50, let's even make it 40 gallons, right? To make it easy to calculate. And the author says each of them contain between 2 to 3. 2 firkins will mean that each water pot had been used, or half of it has been used, right? And if you take it to 3 firkins, then it means that only a quarter of it has been used. So let's even settle that all of them contained half 2 firkins, right?
Okay.
Just to make it easy. Or if you want 4 to 2, 1 to 5, 3 to 3, let's make it standard. To go for the agree that there may have been some sort of miscalculation on the part of the couple, which actually I'm about to prove that is not so. If the amount of water remaining at this time of the shortage was each water pot had half of its content left. Now let's also assume that it took 1 gallon to wash the feet of each guest, right? And we are saying that each water pot will contain roughly 40 gallons. Then one could say that the couple expected 40 times 6 guests.
Which is 240.
Which will be 240. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so 240 guests were expected, and one would say they made available enough wine for that number. Yet, the author is telling us that the amount of water left was roughly half of what was started with, which will paint a picture of only half of the people expected showed up. Yet, there was shortage.
Yep.
That's why the complication comes in. If it would have been easy for us to say, okay, more people showed up than was expected. And so, yeah, if more people showed up than the provision made, there will be shortage. But now, from the deduction we've made, we are realizing that only half of the people expected showed up, yet there was shortage. So what really happened?
So are you saying there was lack of preparation or inadequacy?
No. If there was lack of preparation, it wouldn't rather be a lack of provision.
Okay.
It will be over provision. You understand? It will be over provision, yet there was shortage. Because
so
if
this
the
writer
number expected was 240 from what we've said, I mean, all things being equal, just assuming that 1 gallon will be needed to wash the feet of each guest.
Okay.
Right? And you have half of the water left, it means only half the number showed up.
So this writer is taking our minds to school. Just tell us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's why I said the Bible is not only there to sharpen our spirit, quicken it, but also to sharpen our minds. You getting me? So all of a sudden, John didn't have to tell us, but he has told us by giving us clues and cues.
So it's like showing and not telling, like you always say.
Yes, showing that's the technical term. You don't tell, you show. You understand? So all of a sudden, John has introduced a complication into this problem, into this situation. That it wasn't just a question of the couple not planning for the number expected. it was more than we thought. The expected number didn't show up. Only half, maximum half showed up. Yet they created this big problem. So what really is John trying to tell us? And then you begin to look at other things in the text, and those things raise some issues. Why would Jesus or John tell us? Jesus told the servants, draw out and give to the governor. And then after the governor had drunk, the ruler. What are these terms? These are political terms. You getting me? Governor, ruler. And this was just a wording. So all of a sudden, John is trying to tell us something deeper happening here. This was carrying more than just symbolic or your weight. They are political. And so the nature of literature to stretch the mind sets in here. What is this author trying to tell us? What do we have to extrapolate? How do we see the world in a text like this? Again, as I have always maintained, this is cast in narrative terms. This is a narrative. And as we've established by now, a narrative is about experience. It is not about what happened. It is about what? What happens in life. So this is something that happens in life. How can it inform us about the way to organize life?
Okay, here we go now.
So we'll come back. Let me give Dr. Max the chance also to.
All right, Mr. Max, we have 12 minutes, and Pastor Akron is taking my mind to school. Right? I mean, he's lost me totally. So bring me back into the fold. He's totally, completely lost me. So bring me back into the fold. And then we have the 11 minutes left. We'll go into our contemporary issues, what the scripture means in our time. So, Mr. Max, bring me back to life after Pastor Akron lost me, and then we'll take it from there.
I'll do my very best, but Pastor Akron simply used the mathematics of the narrative to show that the shortage was artificial. It was not because there were too many people, but somehow a shortage was caused. He's also drawn attention to the fact that the language used to describe the person to whom Jesus specifically asked for the wine to be sent was a person of authority, political authority. So when you do something and you send it to somebody with political authority, you are sending notice of one kind or another. You are sending notice that, hey, there's something happening here. And it may be a way of assuaging the authority, giving them, assurance that I'm on your side. Or it may be a challenge, saying that, hey, I'm here to shake things up. And to understand what's going on here, we have to then look at the words of the ruler, who, having tasted the wine, said, but normally people bring the good wine first, but you are bringing the good wine last. What is going on? You are overturning the rules of the game.
That's true.
Changing the rules of the game. Yeah. And so this can take us everywhere, but
yeah, this is going to be extensive. I mean, I am really enjoying this. So we have only 9 minutes, but this is going to be exciting. And I'm glad I have this learned scholars on this show too. I mean, beloved, this is not just a Bible study. This is deep. This is deep. We are marrying the spirit with the physical, and you need to share this, clip or video or this broadcast with your friends. I mean, this is deep. And so, with the time that is left, I mean, I couldn't even play my art. Pastor Krom, of course, you know, we always tie in our contemporary times. What would you say our listeners or viewers should tie in as far as this seemingly, because we were very articulate and very particular about the words that we use, seemingly. To a reader, that is not what it is, but it looks as if that is what it is, seemingly inadequate preparation. How do we tie into life?
Dr. Boison,
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to tell, I'm going to show.
Please, this time, please tell us. We don't have too much time.
Okay. You see, isn't it amazing? It was Jesus' mother who came to Jesus. Jesus had been invited to the wedding. So if there was shortage, he himself was actually most likely aware that there was a shortage. Right? Why didn't he take the initiative? That's one question. So John is painting a picture of how Jesus works. He doesn't barge into people's life. He doesn't barge into situations. He has to be invited.
He's a gentleman. Revelation 3:20.
You're getting me? Oh, so all of a sudden, very interesting. He was there. But the big question is, he was there as what? He was there as a guest. He was not there even as the chairman of the occasion. So is it possible John is painting a picture that Jesus, we may think that we have invited Jesus into our lives, but he is really not the governor of our lives? Yeah, we may have the good sense to invite him, but does he run our lives? So this couple had the good sense to invite him, but he was there as a guest. He was not there as the director of events. Now, the next thing, John is telling us something. The mother of Jesus goes to Jesus and says, they have no wine. Jesus reacts, says, my time has not come. Is John trying to tell us with Jesus, there is time for everything? He may say no right now, but does it mean he has completely ruled it out? If it is a worthy cause. You understand? So we go back. Solomon said, there is time for everything under the sun.
Exactly.
Whoa. Are we getting all of education in diverse ways? Okay, then the next thing, Jesus' mother, who knew the ability, as Dr. Marx rightly said, had an insight about the capabilities of her son, now goes to the servants and tells them whatsoever, that's the term in verse 5, whatsoever he asks you to do, do it.
It sounds like it was even arranged. Somebody might think it was even arranged.
You getting me? Oh, servants. Now let me circle back to what did the servant contribute to this shortage? They were serving the wine. Didn't they realize that something was happening? Now, John again tells us that in verse 9, look at it. It says, when the ruler of the feast had tasted the wine that was made, the water that was made wine, and knew not, lack of knowledge. But the servants who drew the water knew. So the servants who were knocking on this occasion had knowledge. The rulers of the occasion who were supposed to be the henchmen, the big men, whatever, lacked knowledge. If you bring it to the our contemporary world, what are we talking about? When the ignoramuses run the show, what happens?
Confusion.
Confusion.
You're getting the picture. So all of a sudden, Jesus will tell us the thief comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. But I have come to give life and to give it more abundantly. Look at what he did. All of a sudden, and since time is running, Dr. Boison, we would have to come back to this.
Certainly.
Because look at what the ruler said. You have saved the best wine for
the last,
which means a new standard had been introduced. Because the standard of the day was that you give the best wine, you serve it first, and then when the people had drunk themselves silly, you serve them the not so good wine, which was nothing but deception. Isn't it true?
This is the time that I believe the wine that was drunk, they would have gone to pick it out and stop it with a fresh one.
The group there, these people, the guests, only half of them, you will realize that the best wine had been served and the not so best wine had also been served, yet there was a shortage. So this couple did everything. They checked all the marks, but there was something that really, and it is to paint the picture, and that's Africa's problem. If you have all the resources and you have bad management, there will be shortage.
We are hitting a nerve, please.
That is the message of this text. In the abundance of water, the fool
will be thirsty.
So, John is telling us something deep, something that Jesus' mission was not only to clean up the spiritual, but also to clean up
the physical. Yeah.
And I'll stop here for now.
Wow. Well, listeners and viewers will have to come back, and we haven't even gone into the business aspect, the entrepreneurship and individuals in your business setup, in your own life. At what point do you feel like you've had an inadequate preparation? Or at what point do you think you want to vomit out the worst one you drank and fill it with a fresh one? We'll come to that next. But Brother Mask, I want you to, a rejoinder, add, subtract, divide, or totally conquer what Pastor Kwani said, whatever you want to say before we leave.
No, Dr. Boison, in the spirit of Jesus' coming, I can only try to give life and add and make more abundant.
Okay, go ahead.
That's all I can do. But I think Pastor Krong has said most of what needed to be said. You know, we are in a time when we may invite Jesus into our lives, but how much leeway do we give him to order our lives? If we just leave him standing in the doorway and we don't actually do what he says, then what is the point? And what did he say? He said, love thy God as thyself. Love thy God with all thy heart and might, and love thy neighbor as thyself.
That's
Two
true.
commandments. That was all he came to tell us to do. And really, they shouldn't be too difficult.
That's true. That's true.
When you think about it. So I think this parable, this story is a perfect illustration of the importance of having Jesus not just around in our lives, but present in our decision making, in the management of ourselves and our families and our businesses and our social circles, and in anything and everything we come into contact with.
Wow, well said, Pastor, Mr. Dr. Marks. Thank you very much. And if I may piggyback on what you said, it is true that all the commandments hinges on two, as Jesus said. Love the Lord your God with your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. Because if we are to obey these two commandments, we wouldn't be terrifying and being scared about Russia going to invade and pervade Ukraine, because we are next door neighbors. Why all this hulala and would have fight? So even what I want to say is, even if you don't believe in the existence of God, you could be an agnostic or you could be an atheist, whatever it is. Even if you don't believe in any of this, just by looking at these scriptures, these writings, the Bible that so many people fight about, you may believe it or not, but then the teachings and the words that Pastor Kron and Pastor Max have just said, obeying them can lead us far. Otherwise, we wouldn't be stressing over gas prices now going to almost $4.50 in my Virginia and 5 something in California. We are all getting scared because now there's so much sanctions going on. Listeners and my guests, I cannot overemphasize how much grateful I am to you tonight for these two learned brains. Me, I just sat in and became the Ochami, the moderator. These are the scholars who made the show interesting and valuable to know. Of course, when it comes to divine connection, we are linking the spirit with the physical realm. We don't downplay each of them, because for totality, we have to combine the two. You cannot say you are so spiritually minded that you are earthly of no use. That one, you have to be both. You have to balance your life. You cannot tell me you are aiming at heaven and so ignore all the physical life. No, it doesn't balance. Even Jesus didn't teach us that way. So, guest, thank you very much. Host, myself, thank you myself for hosting. And so, Pastor Kron, thank you very much for availing yourself as usual. And Mr. Max, I dove my heart for you. I know it's past your bedtime, but you've stayed late. It's now, I think, in the midnight in Ghana. You stayed and made this show what it is. Tonight, I just want to say thank you to our listeners. Of course, Era One Radio is a 24/7 radio station. You can listen every minute of the day. I mean, go to YouTube, go to Facebook, download our clip for tonight, and listen over and over again. I want to say thanks to Dr. Setutu for making this platform what it is. And those of you join us tonight, Williams Brown, my own niece from Comfort UK, who just had a baby boy. Congratulations again. And Sister Abina from Poma, our first lady, Sister Sabina Patterson, all those who joined us, I say thank you. And then I have Sister Sherry Short who joined us. So everybody listen to us tonight who joined us, I want to say thank you. And before we wrap up, permit me one more time, being International Women's Day, I thank all the women for what they do. My wife, my girls who are coming to also become women, Sister Abna from Poma, Sister Sabina Comfort, all you women who are celebrating your day. It's your day. And I think we'll take a special day on Mother's Day and honor you properly. But before we leave, I'll play my clip again. So, Pastor Kron, thank you very much. We'll have to continue this edition because we just scratched the surface. And Pastor Max, you have an inkling of what it is now, so you know what it is. And I'm sure you postpone a little bit of your bedtime and meet us here every Tuesday. I'm sure Thursday, if it's possible, we might come back for a rejoinder. So thank you very much and have a good evening. I will end with my clip for the women, and I'll see you again next week. Thank you very much.
They are 4 women. They are beautiful with brains. They are eloquent, decent, wise, and experienced. You have heard many, the funny. Now, it's time to hear the experience and the brainy. Meet Selena, Dorcas, Gifty, and Annette as they present the real in common getting. In common BIA says chain, the dead, as in Takrenu assume the dead, the real in common getting. Showing live this and every Sunday, 7 p.m. on Era One Radio on Facebook and on YouTube, Era One Radio and on Taibo channel. Kaise, so we see the real in common getting what brabon tete, we nyan konkonsa, we the real in common getting.
Kosua ne ti era one radio empenyini say yensoma na motenten yesoma banyasafo era one radio yede nsem anomuaye ebre.
All right, peace out. Have a good evening all, and I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Aden urefiana, say to me manya any,